My name is Mary Beth Anastasio, also known as Tammy Jo Smith, as Mark will call me. So without further ado, Mark Chesnut.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Thank you so much for coming out this evening. I'm so excited that you're all here. I'm so excited that my husband Angel is here. He flew in from Puerto Rico this morning. So that would have ruined the party if he wasn't here, because it's not a party without Angel alone. But I also want to thank several of the other people who have helped to make this event possible. The Spot, our host venue here, is amazing. The people are amazing. So Onward Communications and Gustavo, who are co-sponsoring the event. Onward Communications is one of the top PR, public relations firms in the travel and tourism industry. Also, our wonderful booksellers here, the Bureau of General Services Queer Division. So thank you to all of you who bought the book tonight from our booksellers here. And of course, I want to thank the amazing Rob Stein, who is doing our photographs for tonight, but also he put together this amazing promotional video interview at JFK Airport a few months ago, and it's on my YouTube channel. I want to thank, of course, our hostess, Tammy. Some people might prefer to call her Mary Beth, but she's a wonderful hostess, and so now I guess she has some quick questions for me, and then if you all have questions, we can get into that too.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So let's get started talking about sort of the how this book got started. So what was the catalyst that got you writing this book in the first place?
Well, honestly, the book, I didn't set out to write a book. The book started out as therapy for me, as kind of something therapeutic that I needed to do because my mother was getting older, she got ill, and it was getting more and more obvious that she wasn't going to be around with us for much longer. So I started, I guess because I'm a writer, it was natural for me to cope with that stress and emotional difficulty by writing everything down that was happening to me, everything that was happening to her. And so gradually it became to be a bigger and bigger project, and some of it turned into essays that appeared in some small literary journals, and I started taking a memoir writing class, and eventually it became the book. So it was really happened naturally rather than something that I set out to do from the start.
So for anyone who's read this book so far, and hopefully everybody will, Rob, thank you for that. The book can be very heavy because it does deal with issues like grief, but it's also very, very funny. As you know, just so anyone who has not gotten the book yet, I told people at a book fair this past weekend that I've heard these stories, no offense, Mark, but like 100 times, but I still laugh at the stories when I read them in the book. I can hear them another 100 times. But it's heavy, so it's funny, and my favorite part, personally, is where you were getting chased out in a parking lot by them with a drunk after an election. I don't know why that resonates with me. But, so who did you think the audience would be for this book? And what's the reception been? And were you right about the audience?
Well, first of all, I'm glad that you liked the part where I was in 7th grade, I think, and being chased by the town drunk through a parking lot, and I had to crouch down in tears and hide behind an old Pontiac. Yeah, and that's cool because, you know, sometimes things that happen to you, when they happen to you, it's scary or humiliating or disgusting or whatever, but when you look back, it's hilarious. And that's one of the things that can be good in life, if you can look back at certain things like that. Like being chased by a drunk woman wearing Naga hide heels, and laugh about it. So I'm glad we found humor in it. And that actually kind of ties into the other question about who's been reading this and how people have been reacting. I've been really pleasantly surprised by how much a lot of people have been saying that they can relate to different parts of the book. And it's a compliment, I consider, that a lot of people said they laughed and they cried. I've been hearing from people who, you know, felt like a misfit in school when they were kids, or, you know, had trouble just figuring out who they were, what their place is in the world. I've heard from people who've had to take care of their own aging parents, people who've, you know, had to come out and that have found difficulty in that, people who've had to, you know, get ready to say goodbye to their parents or other loved ones. So it's been really kind of a nice surprise to hear, because when I was writing this, I didn't think that other people would be able to relate to what I was going through, but it just goes to show you that we all have things that we share in common, even if it may not appear that we do on the surface. I've heard from people that I thought I had nothing in common with, but it turns out that we do. So it's kind of a human connection, which is really, really nice, I think.
Okay, so finally, tell us about the support you've gotten. You've been doing some posting on Facebook and Instagram. And personally, I see people's feedback, and it's been really wonderful and really supportive. But what does it mean to you? Are there any surprises there?
It means so much to me, especially you who are here tonight, because you're the coolest. But no, it's been really, really nice. And one of the really cool things is that there has been a lot of support and a lot of like social media support, which has really a big help nowadays. That's how you can get the word out through recommendations and just sharing stuff. But it's been a really nice excuse to reconnect with people that I've known for years and decades. And just for example, right here tonight, there are some people that I worked with in Secaucus years ago, and so those people helped to make my working life so much better, and so I'm grateful to have had those people in my life and still have them in my life. There are some very important people here from my days in college at the State University of New York at Albany, yes, including Miss Tammy here, who I met in front of a laundromat in 1985, because she thought she thought a dog was mine, but it wasn't, so she started petting it, and that's how we met. The rest is history.
But on a search for gay friends, I mean.
Yes, exactly. She was on a gay hunt, but in a good way. But no, and also I had the good fortune to live with this amazing group of people in Albany called the Ward, and they're standing over there somewhere. And so I'm so glad that an amazing man named Mark Hoff invited me to join the group of people that he was assembling to live with in Albany. So college days and staying in touch with college friends is so nice. There's also, who else? People from Jackson Heights who I live with here. And they're amazing neighbors and friends. And of course, the amazing writing group, people that I met in my memoir class. And I couldn't have gotten to where I am right now without the support from you guys, because we all support each other, and the feedback, because there's only two of them here right now, but you all are so smart and are better writers than I am. And so the insight that they gave me is just like, the book would suck even more than it does if it weren't for them. So I really like that. And I know the groups that I'm not remembering. The public relations people in the travel and tourism industry are amazing people also, and they've been so supportive. And we have someone, Ceci right here, for example, and Gustavo, who I think is still not arrived. But the way that the industry works together, and we all support each other, and we're more than just, working together, we're friends. And so I think the human connection, wait, what was the question?
It doesn't matter, just rambling.
Yeah, you're doing great,
And this is my first beer.
Hey, whatever you say.
All right, so, was that it?
That is it. I mean, I have one more question for you.
Okay.
And then we're going to open it up. Actually, yeah, then we're going to open it up.
Okay,
You're going to do a reading.
Okay, quick reading.
Then we're going to open it up, and
Okay.
then we're going to have a couple more things to say after that.
Okay.
But the one question I have for you is, like, pretend, do I look like James Lipton from inside the actor studio? I'm going to ask you a question from Vanilla People. One question that's usually asked at the end of that show. If God were to exist, what would you like to have him or her ask you at the pearly gates?
Well, I think for that, I can't answer it exactly.
Well, actually, I think it's what you would say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or no, I think, well, what it comes to mind is actually in the book. There's what my mother told a Southern Baptist minister at the calling hours for my grandfather. Calling hours are what people in the South call awake, what you call awake here. Anyway, what she told was kind of similar, I guess, but not quite the same. So she turned to the minister when he promised her that she'd be reunited with family and loved ones after we all pass away. She turned to him and she said, "Well, I can tell you one thing. If I die and I see my husband, who hasn't been around since 1969, the first thing he's going to say to me is, 'How'd you get so fat?'" So that didn't quite answer the question.
It was good enough for me.
Right. Okay.
So anyway, as I said, Mark's going to do a little reading. We're going to open up for Q&A, and then we have a couple more things to wrap it up. And so, Mark, please.
Okay, let me drop my beer. And I figured since we're approaching the Halloween season, I'd read a little bit from this short chapter called Trick or Treat, which is set in this assisted living facility where my mother lived upstate for a little while. So, Halloween parties at an assisted living facility should be fairly predictable. There should be candy, there should be decorations, and some costumes too. What surprised me the most, however, was the fondling. I guess I should be flattered, though, that someone found me as irresistible as a bag full of fresh candy corn. There was a party for every conceivable occasion at my mother's assisted living residence, whether it was Christmas, New Year's Eve, or Easter. A giant bowl of tasty, non-alcoholic punch sat in the facility's luxuriously carpeted lobby, accompanying every event. For Halloween, the facility complemented the neon-colored beverage with a party that was open to residents and employees as well as their families. Staff members were invited to parade their children around the lobby to delight residents with their creative costumes and darling cuteness. It actually sounded like a pretty good way to spend the evening. Plus, after multiple visits during other holidays, I become quite addicted to the punch, so I look forward to attending the event to satisfy my addiction. My mother didn't care much for those types of events, but she felt that they were necessary and a good idea to go. Those parties can be pretty silly, she said as she placed a tiny plastic witch's hat atop her frizzy gray-brown hair. Some of the old kooks living here are a little nutty, but it's a good idea to at least show up and be social for a while. She switched off the TV in her studio apartment and grasped her silver walker as we headed down to the elevator. Downstairs, Golden Oldies music oozed through the speaker system as we grabbed cups of the all-important punch, as well as a small plastic bag of Halloween candy, which was thoughtfully provided by the assisted living facility so that we'd have something to give to the soon-to-arrive little ones. A crowd of about 24 seniors had already taken seats around the lobby, leaving us one spot on a heavily cushioned love seat that was pushed up next to a larger couch where an elderly gentleman sat with gray hair. "Hello, how are you?" I smiled at the man as I sank into the love seat's silky smoothness. "I'm fine," he responded, patting my hand on the armrest. Soon, the front doors swung open, and the giggles of a dozen or so tiny merrymakers filled the lobby. The children excitedly pranced about in a sugar-fueled swirl of energy, stopping at every couch and chair to collect treats from the smiling residents. There was a ballerina and an astronaut. There was a cowboy and a policeman. And there was a giant hand on my knee. He must not realize what he's doing, I told myself as I glanced quickly at the gentleman sitting next to me. I scooted my butt slightly across the satiny upholstery toward my mother, slipping my leg away from the friendly neighbor's veiny paw. "Isn't she the cutest thing?" my mother said, pointing to a toddler in a tiara and a princess dress. "She really is cute," I said, crossing my legs. "I wonder which princess she's supposed to be." "Give her some candy," my mother commanded, handing over the plastic bag. "I won't be able to hear what she says if she talks to me." As I leaned forward to proffer the finest generic version of Smarties that the facility's money could buy, I noticed in the corner of my eye that my neighbor's arm, which lay in the armrest, was slowly turning at the elbow, much like a crane angling over a construction site. Apparently, my leg was the work zone. The lanky limb pivoted, and a warm palm landed gently but firmly on my thigh. "Oh, Mama, look over there at that little boy," I blurted gleefully, using my sudden explosion of joy as an excuse to jolt my body skyward, thereby dislodging the wandering hand as I swung myself even closer to my mother. "Is that boy dressed like, a miniature Charlie Chaplin, or Mussolini, or B. Arthur? I can't quite tell." I was desperate to say anything. "I'm not sure," my mother said, half smiling. I couldn't tell if she noticed what was happening. "Well, I sure do hope that little boy comes over here so we can get a good look at him," I gushed with forced enthusiasm, shaking my leg as I angled my body in the direction of my mother, like a teenage girl cozying up to her boyfriend while having a mild epileptic fit. "Are you having a good time, Mama?" I asked, turning my body as sharply as possible in her direction. "Oh yes, the kids are all very cute," she said, eyeing me a bit strangely as she sipped punch from a plastic cup decorated with a jack-o'-lantern sticker. Well, why didn't I just say something to the man or get up and leave? Well, there was nowhere else to go, nowhere else to sit. Plus, my mother used a walker, and I couldn't have just abandoned her. I couldn't just suddenly announce that we had to depart immediately. And since she was hard of hearing, I would have to explain to her at such a volume that everyone in the lobby would have heard my plight. possibly resulting in innocent costume children running in terror to their parents to ask what being felt up meant. I didn't want to make a scene. It was easier to just avoid the man's advances. So now here I was, pretending to admire the costume of every single staff member's child, while simultaneously fending off the advances of a large hand that kept creeping toward me like the disembodied body part in some 1950s horror movie. Within minutes, it was back again, arriving at an even higher place on my left thigh. His arm was now fully extended from his couch onto my leg. There was nowhere else to go on the love seat unless I jumped into my mother's lap. Okay, I surrender, I thought. If feeling me up gives this old man such a thrill, I'll just let him do it. I'm doing my good deed for the day, right? Nobody's getting hurt. I'm just having my space invaded while providing some Halloween cheer to a frisky senior who probably hasn't gotten laid in a while. Then I started wondering how real hookups would be like in such a highly monitored environment, like an assisted living facility. Would he tie a sock around the doorknob of his room so that staff would know not to check in on him? Would neighbors gossip if they saw me creeping out of his door late at night with my hair all in a mess? Or would they all be asleep anyway so they wouldn't notice? I leaned back, tossed a piece of cotton candy corn in my mouth, and sighed. Suddenly, my mother sat up straight. "I think we've been here long enough," she said, firmly reaching for her walker. "Let's go back upstairs, sweetie. I have some cheese and crackers we can munch on." I jumped up like I just won a prize. "Happy Halloween, everyone," I called, waving merrily as we left. The man smiled slightly and looked away. "I told you some of these people are nuts," my mother said as the elevator doors closed behind us. And that's what my Halloween was like that particular year. So, and I think that's it now, but if there's any questions, I guess.
Yeah, I think we can open this up. If anyone's got any questions, hopefully they do.
Yes, sir. Robert.
So the question was, you've traveled more than anyone. What should tourists not do?
What should tourists not do? Sit too close to an older man at an assisted living facility at a Halloween party.
Anywhere.
Other than that, yeah. I don't know. I would say you should not go anywhere without an open mind, maybe, because it's good to be flexible and to try to stay in a good mood even when there are travel difficulties, because it's frequent. I guess that's what I was saying, like an overall blanket thing. And always be open to new experiences, right? So, Ceci, would you
Mark, what is the biggest thing you learned in your memoir writing course, and how did it help you write the book?
That's a good question too. One of the most important things I learned, I guess, is that it's not about me. Like, a memoir is about you, but it's also not about you. And so, just like, you're an editor and writer like I am, when we're writing, you're not writing for yourself, we're writing for the readers. And so, like, it taught, I already knew that in terms of being a travel writer, but as a memoir writer, at first I think you're so focused on, like, this is what happened to me, this is what happened to my mother, and that's it. Whereas, like, as I started really polishing it and got more feedback from a lot of wonderful people, I started seeing it from other points of view and realizing, okay, this is a story, I happen to be in it, but it kind of made me more objective in a way. Not that I can ever be totally objective, but that was part of it. Ceci, you have a question?
I was just curious if your mom was here today, what would she have to say about the book?
She would be happy in some ways and embarrassed in some ways, I think, because she was a very, just a few people here knew my mother, but she is a very funny person and a very social person. She had more friends than I do, just like Angel. I tend to hang out with people who have more friends than I do, but so I think she would like the fact that people are interested in our story and are sharing similar experiences and can relate to it. And I think she'd like the fact that so many people are gathering and enjoying it and laughing and crying. I think she'd be embarrassed a little bit about some of the personal stuff, even though those of you who've read it, like it's not like I didn't do a mommy dearest routine on her or anything, so it's not like I was very careful about that too, because I wanted to portray our relationship as like a layered and evolving thing, and every parent-child relationship is complicated and it changes over time. So Yeah, I think she would have like mixed feelings, but I think overall she'd be positive about it because she would like the fact that other people are relating to her story. Anyone else? Maybe that's it. So I guess that's it for now. So thank you so much, Evan, for coming on. If you